Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Nigel, and in today's video we're going to be reviewing the S2 camera slider by Ashanks. Now, just a full disclaimer, Ashanks did send this out to me for review, but as with all my reviews, I'm not required to say anything nice about it, and this is going to be my honest and unbiased review. But I'm going to start out with some of the pros of this slider and then move on to some of the cons that I found. And one thing that you might notice in this shot right now is that I actually am using the S2 Ashanks slider, and I have it set up on a round trip shot. So the camera is going back and forth, but it's also panning with me too, which I'll get to that feature in a second. But yeah, I kind of stole this idea from Levi Allen because he does this with his Kessler second shooter a lot. But I just wanted to kind of demonstrate that you can add a little bit of like dynamic movement in even your YouTube shots like this. But anyways, let's get into the review of this slider. I'm gonna stop it right now because I'm not good enough at talking to the camera, and there's gonna be way too many jump cuts, and with the camera moving like this, that's gonna be really annoying to watch. So yeah, let's get right into talking about this Ashanks slider. One thing that I do want to mention is that this is actually a pretty inexpensive slider when it comes to like motorized camera sliders. If you look at anything from like Rhino or Kessler, they're going to be a lot more expensive, and this is definitely geared towards the budget conscious. This camera slider will run you about $300, and even though that might seem a little bit expensive to some people, if you look into motorized camera sliders like this, they're going to be a lot more expensive than that when you go with like the big name brands. And the features that this slider offers is actually pretty cool for that price. So I'm going to start out with the pros of this camera slider, and one pro that I definitely want to mention is this has really good build quality. This actually looks and feels like a professional product. It doesn't feel cheap. There's like barely any plastic pieces on here except for the wheels that are on the slider, and the rails are carbon fiber, and then everything else is metal, which I was really impressed by, because usually with like cheaper stuff they usually, you know, skimp on the products that they use, but everything here seems really well built, and yeah, I was really impressed. So another pro is the ease of use straight out of the box. It comes in the box basically all set up. All you have to do is just attach the belt to the sled of the camera slider, and that's it. And that brings me to the next pro. This slider is run off of an app, and the app is free, and you download it and it connects to your slider instantly. It connects via Bluetooth, and the app works the way it's supposed to for the most part. And the last pro that I'm going to talk about is probably the most important, is the footage actually looks really good. I've been pleasantly surprised with just how good the footage is and the time lapses are from this slider. I've tested it in the video mode, and I've also done a few time lapses with it. Granted, the time lapses that I did weren't great. The conditions here in Portland haven't been the best for time lapses as far as like cloud movement, so I didn't get the craziest time lapses, but the time lapse function and the video function, they work, and you can get really good results from this slider. Alright, so now let's go into talking about a few of the cons of this camera slider. And one con that I'm definitely going to have to talk about is the batteries. This slider does not come with batteries, so if you have like a A6300 or an A6000, or I believe even the A7 series use these, if you have a camera like that already, you probably have a lot of these batteries lying around. But for me, I shoot with Panasonic, so I didn't have any of these batteries and I had to borrow some. But yeah, it doesn't come with batteries, and these small little batteries are pretty low capacity and they don't last super long. So this next con is kind of a pretty important one, and hopefully Ashanks will fix this with a update to their app. But the app drops connection every once in a while, and sometimes that can be really annoying when I'm trying to set my in and out points. The way you use the slider is you set in and out points kind of like keyframes, and then once the slider knows where the in and out points are, you just click go, and then you can do like round trips in video mode, or you can do like a one trip really slowly with like the time lapse feature. But sometimes when you're setting those in and out points, or you're just in the middle of a time lapse, the app will lose connection. And luckily that doesn't stop the slider from doing the motion that you previously programmed into the slider. But if you're in the middle of trying to set your in and out points and the app loses connection, then you have to go back and do the in and out points all over again and move the slider back to, you know, point A and then to point B again. So that's kind of a inconvenience when it comes to using the app with this slider, and I really hope that Ashanks will fix that. Another small thing is, although most of the app is in English, there are some bits that are in Chinese, I believe, which is, you know, kind of confusing because I don't read Chinese or speak it, so I don't really know what I'm doing with some of the, you know, controls, especially in like the time-lapse feature. So hopefully Ashanks will fix that in an app update soon. But my next con is that this slider is only app controlled. There are no physical dials on the slider sled itself that you can use to like move it, and even moving it like manually with your hand, you can't do it. It has to be controlled with the app, and that's kind of annoying because, like, say your phone dies and you want to move like the camera back to like the center of the tripod or something like that, you won't be able to do it because if your app isn't connecting, or if phone loses battery and turns off, you're pretty much out of luck. So yeah, the fact that like you can't move the slider at all unless you are connected to the app on your phone, that is a little bit annoying. And I wish that there was like some kind of button on the actual sled itself to just move it back and forth like manually with like a button or something like that. But that's just one thing that I kind of found a little bit annoying. Maybe it's not that big of a deal to other people, but the fact that you can only control it with your phone is kind of weird. And my last con with the slider that you've probably heard more than seen is the fact that it is not silent. That's just one thing where if you are trying to do like a talking head type video like this, like I did in the beginning, where the camera was sliding back and forth, you will hear that in the background of your audio. This slider doesn't only like pan your camera back and forth at, you know, like various speeds for like, you know, like video and time lapses, but you can also actually do pans with the slider too, which I think is really cool. It uses a third rail in the middle of the slider to control the pan of the slider sled. So you can not only like slide the camera back and forth or forward and back, but also pan it left to right. But yeah, my final thoughts on the slider is I think it's actually really good. I mean, I feel like the app needs to be fixed a little bit, but for 300 bucks, it's a really solid performer. And if you can deal with the fact that the motor's a little loud and, you know, the app isn't perfect, I think it could be a great addition to your kit if you needed a motorized camera slider. It's really cool that sliders like this are available for the price point that they are. I know when I was first looking into sliders to do a lot of, you know, outdoor time lapses, motorized sliders were so expensive and so far out of the reach of something that I could afford. But it's really cool that companies like Ashanks are making it a little bit more tangible for people who are on a budget. Anyways, I hope you liked this video. If you did, it'd be really cool if you hit the like button, and be sure to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content from me. There's going to be links in the description to where you can check out the slider, as well as a bunch of other links to gear that I use and recommend, and also a link to my Sellfy account if you want to buy some of my $5 LUTs, and also a link to my Patreon and my Teespring account. You can click over here if you want to see some more of my videos, but until next time, I'll see you all later. Bye.